Today we're talking about why the INFJ is a transformation warrior. And I'm not even talking about the fact that we're chameleons, because when we are acting as a chameleon, we're still the same person underneath. We still know that we act one way when we're with this one group or this one person, and another way when we're with that second person. What I'm talking about is that we actually transform ourselves to such an extent that we become somebody new. And we do this on a continuous basis, and I believe most INFJs are not even aware of it to that extent. And the more awareness we bring to this, the more we can use this to our advantage, because this is something that other types, I always like to use the ESTP because we always have the same functions, but for types like the ESTP, this is much harder because they're way more grounded in their SE experience. And I've seen this all my life. I've always seen myself this way. The people around me have a certain image of me. It's much harder for a type like the ESTP to change their own identity. For us INFJs, this is like second nature, and we have to embrace this. I mean, we've all heard the saying of it's 10% what happens to you and 90% how you react to it. So we all have experienced hardships. We all have experienced some kind of hell. This isn't just something that happens to INFJs, although a lot of us feel this way, that, because we're different, because people don't understand us, there's such pain that we go through. But I can guarantee you every single person has gone through their personal hell. But what we as INFJs are incredibly good at is to actually change the narrative, to transform ourselves. And the reason for this is introverted intuition. Introverted intuition is a vast space. It allows us to actually move around in it without feeling like we have to clash in any kind of way with our identity. It allows us to adapt parts of us, belief systems, without having a reality break, without feeling like the world is crushing down and we're going crazy or something in that sense. That's actually the reason why we get in so many situations which other people find way too extreme from a mental space. I mean, we get into relationships that are out of the norm. We believe in dreams that might seem extraordinary. We've all experienced this, but the reason why we dare to do these big things and to dare things that seem weird to other people or way too much is because we know we're going to take the information out of it. It's going to transform us one way or another, and we either win or we learn. That's the typical INFJ thing. That's why we have this power of transformation, and that's why we're transformation warriors. And the more we accept this, the more we understand how this is working, we can use this proactively. We can see it as a strength, and we can anticipate that certain situations will force us to adapt, will force us to have a new mindset, something that works better with the life we want to live. And that is the most exciting thing. That's one of the things we use in Bootcamp all the time. That's what the 5 pillars to an INFJ epic life is all about, because taking steps in all of those 5 pillars just forces you to level up. It forces you to question your own belief systems in certain areas that you weren't even aware of. And once you're taking those steps in creating the results that you want, you actually realize, oh, it's much better for me to think in this new way that will change my life. If you want to get access to this, download the free poster. The link is in the description. It gives you a first look into how the 5 pillars to an INFJ epic life work. And remember, the bootcamp is launching this month, so in the end of October. So sign up to the waiting list as well, so you don't miss out when we launch and when you have access to the early bird price, because it's just a really short amount of time that you have access to that offer. Okay, but now let's get back to the main point. So let's say you put in a situation and you believe you can master something. Let's say you have a new job, or there's a person that you feel like you have a connection with. And through the experience of, reality doesn't actually match up to the way my TI has been working. Because we have to understand, we are INFJs, meaning we have introverted thinking as our third function. Our third function is the function we always overestimate for every single type. The ENFJ always overestimates their SE, same thing for the ENTJ. The ESTP always overestimates their power in FE. The third function is always the thing we have to be really careful about, because we all think that we're better at this than we actually are. But if you approach it from a perspective of, I know that that there's so many things I don't know yet, and I know there's so many better ways for me to adapt in such a way that I feel more in alignment with who I want to be, you know what happens? The world is your oyster. Because if you allow yourself to admit that, yeah, there's probably some kind of deficiency in my thought process, and you know that there's nothing that's wrong about it, that's just how we are, and hopefully with every year, with every single time we get to experience a new level of our life, we get to improve this. I definitely know I thought I knew so much when I was much younger, and now I know, okay, I have learned so much. I have become a completely different person. I cannot relate to certain people anymore. I cannot relate to certain situations anymore. And if I talk to these people, it seems like for them, nothing has changed. Of course, we all have experienced a lot of things, but the thing that INFJs can do over and over again, and the thing that's actually really transformed my life, and the students in the bootcamp, they tell me this every single time, the transformation that is happening, we're transforming identities. We're helping each other to get to a place where your identity matches more and more the person that makes you happy, right? That version of yourself. Remember, it's 10% what happens to you and 90% how you react to it. And you as an INFJ have 100%ly experienced this, that you've been in a situation, something has happened positively or negatively, and you are able to change that narrative. You are able to give it a new meaning. You are able to change the narrative from, okay, I've just been dumped, or that job isn't what I thought it was, to, oh, thankfully, now I know what I have always been doing that caused me so much pain the last years. Why I chose certain situations that weren't giving me what I wanted. Now I know it. Thanks so much for this situation. Thanks so much for being able to take this as a lesson learned. And my identity is now not based on that person who says, I'm so fixed on this reality. And because reality isn't happening the way I want it, I get bitter, I get frustrated, I get depressed, I get sad. You know, the list goes on and on. We have the power to change that story because trust me, we do have an advantage at this. It is much harder for other types. Every type can do it, but it is harder for them. How it is probably much easier for an ESTP to pull all-nighters, to be really active, to always be on the go. Yeah, with a lot of practice, we as INFJs can probably do this to an extent as well. Probably never as well, but we can really work on it. But it will never be our strongest suit. Similarly, changing our identity, and again, we're not talking about being a chameleon, we're not talking about how other people perceive it, that we can act like another person. No, we're talking about really your self-image, how you see yourself. We can change that. And NI gives us the opportunity for that. Because what we actually do is we change our internal logic. Our third function, TI. And NI, our first function, is so big, is so vast, that it allows us to change that thought process. It allows us to change our internal logic into something new that makes sense, that makes us feel good, and we can do that without having some kind of reality break. A great example that I like to give when we're talking about these things is imagine an INFJ who is like an amazing artist. His paintings are just amazing. When you see them, they make you feel alive. They're full of life. They're full of emotions. They're just beautiful. But that INFJ has been taught his entire life that the only thing that matters is to be an accountant or a lawyer or something that has absolutely nothing to do with who he wants to be. What happens? He gets conditioned. He then conditions himself that the only thing that matters is to be good at accounting because that's the reality he lives in at that moment. That's the belief system he has. His TI, his internal logic tells him, in order to feel fulfilled, in order to be successful, I have to be good at being a lawyer. But the truth is, he will never be good at being a lawyer because this INFJ in this example just doesn't have what it takes to be an excited lawyer. That's just not his cup of tea. On the other hand, his drawings and his paintings are amazing, but in his mind, this doesn't matter. Who cares about this? This isn't what the real world is all about. What, is he going to be a starving artist? That's not something he can do. And on top of it, he doesn't believe that it's something worth pursuing. How can his life turn into the INFJ epic life we're always talking about? The INFJ epic life that you can see in the poster. Remember, the link's in the description. And the INFJ epic life that we always work on creating in the INFJ Epic Life Bootcamp. He does that by being able to get to a place where his new identity believes that being an artist is the successful way. That being a lawyer is the biggest failure of his life. Because if he would do that, he would settle for something that makes him unhappy, happy, that never gives him the chance to be the greatest he can be, because that's not his forte. It's like, I'm not going to be an Olympian swimmer, and if I just go and swim every single week, I'm still not going to do that. On top of that, I don't like it. What I like to do is what I do here. That's why I quit my corporate job as a consultant in banking. I was good at it, but it wasn't like my big thing. And I was able to change my identity to that. And the INFJ in that example, he can do that too. If he starts meditating on it, if he starts envisioning him being an artist, him being successful at it, him loving what he does, finding people who have the money to invest in those kind of paintings, because there are people who spend a lot of money on art that makes them feel something. And his art is in no way less valuable than what he does as a lawyer, although that's what he's been conditioned to his whole life. We can change that. It's failure to do something for the rest of your life which makes you miserable. And it doesn't have to be an all or nothing thing, but we have such an advantage in this point. We can change our mindset. We can change our internal logical system. And with that, we change our identity. And in that way, we actually get to rise, we get to grow over and over again. And that's how you experience that INFJ epic life that makes you feel excited to get up every day. That's what we create. That's what we work on continuously. And I'm so proud of all the successes we have accomplished so far. And there's so much more to come. So remember, if you haven't done so, download the poster, get a first look into it, check out the bootcamp, sign up for the waiting list. And if you want to watch another video now that is in alignment with today's topic, then watch the video on the INFJ Phoenix.